All right. When I was in my meditative little flow state this morning, I started to get some more things that were popping through kind of piecemeal about need versus desire, need versus desire. And thinking of this in terms of setting the feeling of need and dependency over under the category of attachment and desire under this category of connection and an energy which we can, what do I want to say here, breathe into when we have done some healing work that allows us to come home to ourselves and have more of a balanced internal energy. Then it is safe to speak of, and open our arms to receive these desires, and the need shifts. When we are in this place of experiencing things more from, is it a need? Do I need this? Right? Or, yes, I need this. That energy is more being connected to me under attachment, wound, dependency type of dynamics where there's a whole lot of fear. I can feel this fluttery type of feeling in my chest that feels connected to the energies and the densities that pull us into that place of fear. Fear is there. And really, this is saying, I don't feel safe to need this. I feel I need this. And there's a tension there because the sense of dependency is outsourcing and making me feel very vulnerable and exposed, and therefore just pulling me into an energy of fear, which is fueling a sense of, I'm going to have to control this. And not from a place of a personality standpoint where somebody is domineering or controlling, but from a wounded energy of fear and anxiety and feeling like vulnerability. It's vulnerable to have that need. Yes. And this is the energy that puts us into these push-pull dynamics that is thwarting our capacity to truly be seen, met, explored from this place of need. The dependency there puts these push-pull expectations into the equations. And some of those things around love can look like, love is when you make this person happy, right? Love is to be fully known and loved for all your flaws, right? And then there's also the stagnation energy that we create by defining love in ways that we are trying to soothe ourselves into thinking that we can measure and control it, so that we can always be having this very human programmed, logical, frontal lobe kind of feedback system where we're using that very non-intuitive approach to discern how safe we are in this relationship. And boy, that sounds like a whole lot of attachment wound energy to me. And as I was thinking about this, what feels better, to be needed or to be desired? And what energies are we in regard to gaps or wounds or fractures in our internal energy field, which curates the sense of the "you've got what I need" energy. And that's making me feel uncomfortable, right? And when you come to the safety of worth, cohesion, wholeness, inner balance, where your energy field is just cohesive. That's safety. This is wholeness. And from here, we can experience resonance, and things don't need to be so managed and considered out of a scarcity framework, such that the foundation of need is connected to, right? I need this. Does that sound like abundance or scarcity? Desire. Desire is expansive. It is limitless. When we come from this place of, this is not something I need, yet it is something I would like. That sounds good to me. That sounds lovely. That sounds amazing. This is desire. The lightness of that, I can just feel already in my body language, in my energy, in my smile as I speak to that. Does that sound nice? Here is a link to control and compliance versus resonance, desire, devotion, sovereignty, freedom, the kind of connection, not attachment, the kind of connection that has space in it for breath of life, co-creation, and spirit. Spirit is taking the lead when you're in a place where your relationship can be coming from desire rather than a need. And this is safety in love. This is safety in love. This is movement and freedom and space to like not feel like your wings are being bound to your back, right? When that is desire. I mean, what feels like a nicer notion? Do you want somebody who is romantically interested in you to be on their knees? I need you, right? Or maybe it actually feels better, higher, safer, resonant, and truer for there to be a feeling that this person doesn't need me. This person doesn't need me. They don't need me, right? Is that at first triggering to your nervous system? If you frame it in that way and that feels triggering, we've got some unhealed spaces. We've got some wounds. We've got some attachment-based dynamics, some programming that is this element of the fears from our human conditioned places, born out of attachment wounds, feigning safety, feigning protection, perpetuating the attachment-based dynamics if it feels safer to you to be needed. Ooh, no, you deserve more. You deserve more. You deserve a life that is full of wholeness, worthiness, and a love energy that is a recognition of your own essence, that is never something outsourced, that cannot be taken. And from that place, the connection that is invited into your life and the love that is of a higher frequency desire is the kind of foundation to this reflective, warm, airy kind of experience that leaves room for growth, exploration, curiosity, right? And in this way, we don't need to carry these contrasting thoughts about what love is. Love is that you are like fully understood or fully, um, hmm, yeah, I guess like to be fully understood. And I think that's really not as lovely as it sounds, because how can you grow and continue to be expansive inside of a dynamic where there is a prerequisite for feeling like we're connected and safe here to be fully understood? And I remember this, and I'll give you like just a little example. I've had experiences like this in the past where that kind of energy was getting triggered for me. So interesting. And I've kind of moved through that. And the way in which these type of experiences or statements or interactions affect me is completely different now than it was in the past. I love this. I love this opportunity for growth and the evolution, the ascension that's happening here, the healing, right? And, I would have this wound around being seen and the fear of being misunderstood, the just defensiveness that would come from that place of this illusion of self protection, which was actually fear convincing me to not trust, to contain, constrict, be very guarded in how I present. And this is outsourcing. This is my truth, my authenticity, my essence is being the dial is turned up or down based on audience or perceptions of safety that are outside of myself. That is disempowerment. That is not safety. That is fear taking the lead. That is fear making those decisions for me. And when you feel safe, when you really have safety, you expand. Your light increases. The light is the protection. And from this place, we've broken through these illusions where the sense of safety is going to be garnered from constricting, hiding, playing it small. That's not what happens when you're safe. That's what happens when you're scared. That's what happens when you feel threatened. And you don't want to live in that way. You don't want your movements to be made inside of building a foundation of relationship and connection with somebody else to be coming from fear, to be coming from already the cinder blocks of the very foundation being built on a self-abandonment. Because if you're constricting, contracting, closing in, and deciding when to let your full light shine based on a perception of somebody else's capacity to witness, experience, and be present with that light without being triggered or reactive and having their own unhealed spaces take the wheel, right? That is not the foundation to build a relationship on. This is an illusion. This is an illusion that is going to make things very unsteady in your life, and it's going to perpetuate conditionality, love that is conditional, because we're building it on the shaky ground. And in this way, a little bit of the self-fulfilling prophecy energy. The light is the protection. We want to be in this space. And this brings me to this sense of when we think about need on the side of attachment, and whether I feel I need this or I don't need this. And this not just comes from like neediness on the other person, it comes from you limiting yourself, limiting your ability to feel safe, to have desires. When you start to feel like I want this thing, and then you hear internal language that says like, but I don't need it. So you just moved from desire into framing that from context and definition of need and scarcity, right? If you are limiting and having internal dialogue that basically is saying it is not safe to desire this. That's why when you feel the desire, there's a counter that's immediately saying to you, but you don't need it. This is the unhealed space in you. This is, we don't feel safe to step into a life that is full of our own essence, because in that place, we are the frequency of love, and our life's going to be filled with desires and miracles that pour in, that pour in. Do we have receiving wounds here? Do we have scarcity beliefs that are so deeply internalized that are trying to convince us that it's not safe to have these desires, that it's safer to know that you don't need it because somehow that is going to protect you from feeling disappointed? Yes, that is all energy that is reflective of wounds, internalized limiting beliefs. So we notice when this happens, and then we shift into the self-love practice of this wholeness and the, does it feel good to have desires? Do I like that? Do I deserve that? Yeah, I do. Yeah, I do, right? I don't need to frame this in terms of, well, do you need that? Do you really need that though? Because I'm good. I am whole. I'm safe. My life is full of love already. My life is already full of love essence, and it is carried within me, and it is flowing out of me. And so there's no harm, no foul in having some desires where the external reality, the 3D, matches that. That makes sense. That makes sense. That feels like anything but that now no longer makes sense. When you're humming at that internal frequency of truth, it is safe and natural to have the manifestation of these desires start to be delivered. I'll say it this way. And when you boil all emotional energies down into fundamentals, we really have fear or love. And when you think about wholeness, worthiness, safety, need versus desire, scarcity versus abundance, where do we put trust? If all things boil down to fear or love, where is trust? Where is trust? Love. Trust is love. Doubt. Fear, right? Distrust. Disbelief. That lack of trust goes with fear. And from that place, when you're moving out of any energies of fear, in a place that this fear is somehow going to protect me, that is illusion. That is illusion. You will manifest an environment around you that requires you to micromanage and control in order to garner compliance. And this is not trust. Compliance is not commitment, right? And I almost want to say, let's change that from commitment to devotion. And devotion is truth. Devotion is truth. It's truth. And I was thinking of this earlier and asking this kind of question, like, what is devotion, right? And the answer I had is devotion is something that is felt. It is not something that is thought. This is, how do we get to a place where we experience energies, connections, resonance, magnetism around us and in our life that is coming from a space of felt, intuitive, breath of life is there, right? Like there needs to be space there. For something to be felt, we need to feel safe. We need to feel safe. This is similar energy to I'll believe it when I see it versus you will see it when you believe it. This is love. This is trust. This is devotion. This is resonance. This is the type of truth that aligns with the pure energy of love, where that trust is felt, not micromanaged, not analyzed, not controlled, right? Because compliance is garbage. I don't want compliance. I don't want compliance. I just want truth, right?